my goodness. Lost Canyon, how we doing? Wow. What's up, y'all? It is so good to see you guys. You're here. Oh. If we haven't met, my name is Johnny. I got to do Young Life with my crew here in Tempe, Tukey. Welcome to Lost Canyon, friends. The best week of your life starts right now. And we are so excited you're here. So welcome, friends. Can't wait to hang out with you guys all week long. I've been doing this thing, Young Life, for a bit now. And in fact, I even met my wife. I met my wife in Young Life. Her name is Savannah. I have a picture of her right here. There she is. Oh, yeah. I used to have hair, all right? I know. Thank you for the reminder. I did marry up, obviously. And fellas, there's hope, all right? There's hope. We've been married for 12 years now, and thank you. Obviously, she's my better half. And 6 years ago, we had our daughter, Lila. There she is. There she is. She dressed. Oh yeah, I don't have hair now. Yeah, thank you. She just graduated kindergarten. I know. So sweet. And this is one of her favorite places to come to. She calls it my camp, and I'm like, no, it's everyone's camp. But she loves to call this place her camp, and it's one of my favorite places too. And I hope you're starting to experience that. Man, there's something special about this place. One of my favorite things as a Young Life leader is getting to bring my high school friends, my boys, up here because there's just something different about it, right? You just get to feel, you get to feel free. Maybe for the first time ever, you're experiencing life to the fullest. Like there's something different about this place. The people, maybe right when you stepped off that bus and you got welcomed, you got a big high five, and you looked out at all of camp and you're like, wow, this place is incredible. There's nothing else like it. I hope you're experiencing that. I went to camp when I was in high school, not long ago. And when I was in high school, I was kind of like this emo, skater, stoner kid, all right? Like, it's true. I had like really long hair, and I wore like baggy shorts and skate shoes. I even had a lip ring. I brought a picture of high school Johnny. There he is. I'll be honest, I tried to get rid of this picture and wipe it off the face of the earth, but my friend made it the background of his computer, and this is the only picture I have of this picture. So that's high school Johnny, trying really hard to fit in. I would walk around with like my headphones on, like my Walkman and CDs, and like had Eminem and like the best emo music on there. And high school, I'll be honest, friends, high school was pretty tough for me. I was not great at school. I asked my mom once, I was like, Mom, I don't really remember like doing like PE in high school. And she was like, oh yeah, you were in learning strategies, which we called resource, which I like to say I was just a little slower at learning, okay? Any special education friends in the house? Yeah! You guys are my heroes, okay? Thank you. But I was not great at school. I did not love high school. I had a friend group that I hung out with, and I had some good friends, and I had some not so great friends, but somehow that friend group that I was in, we found ourselves at this thing called Young Life Club. And I was like, this place is kind of weird. But we went, and I loved it. It was awesome. I had people like wanting to know my name and hang out with me, and we could just show up with our skateboards, and we even sometimes went high once or twice. I promise. It was only once. It was only once. It was only once, all right? Maybe twice. But here's what I loved about that, friends. Here's what I absolutely loved about that, is that I was welcome there. An emo skater stoner kid was welcomed at this thing called Young Life, and I was loved just for being me. But okay. You know. Here's what I loved about it, though. I love that I didn't have to try to fit in really hard. I was trying really hard in high school to fit in. And I feel like I had to wear a mask and be somebody different and try and do all these things to fit in. But at Young Life and the people there, I just got to be me. And I was loved for that. And I hope you've experienced that too. And maybe you're starting to experience that. Something else I love about Young Life is that we're not afraid to get real. I remember going to my first Young Life Club and even up to camp, and I was like, man, we're talking about some real stuff. And that's true. And this week, we're going to do that. We're going to get real. All right? We're not afraid to ask hard questions. We're not going to sugarcoat things. Because, friends, right now in the world that you guys live in, there is so much noise. There are so many things that are trying to tell you who to be, what to think, what's true, what isn't true. There is so much noise out there that sometimes we're left with more questions than answers, right? And maybe you've had some of these questions about life, right? Like, are we just floating matter in the middle of time and space, or do we actually matter? Oh, okay. Thank you. That's that special education right there, all right? You may have even asked yourself some questions like, is there even a God? And if there is a God, what's he like? Does he even like me? And if there is a God, does he even care? Friends, myself and your Young Life leaders believe that the God that created everything in this world that we love and enjoy also created you. Thank you. Very participation. Thank you. I don't believe that it's a mistake that you're in this room tonight. I don't believe it's a mistake that you're sitting next to the people you're sitting next to. Friends, your Young Life leaders worked so hard and texted you so much and tried to raise so much money and overcome every obstacle to get you here tonight so that you could hear this. Lock in. They wanted you to hear this, that the God of the universe loves you and wants a relationship with you. Okay? And you may be like, bald man, how do you know? How do you know that there is a God out there that wants a relationship with me? Well, friends, God actually sent his one and only Son, Jesus, to this earth so that we could get to know what he's like. And Jesus wasn't just a guy that lived thousands of years ago that said and did really nice things. No, Jesus is God. So, friends, we get the clearest picture of who God is when we look at the life of Jesus. And we believe that when we get to know Jesus, that changes everything. And that's going to change your life. And so we get the best understanding of who Jesus is here in the most fact-checked, historically accurate book ever written, the Bible. And so every night, every night we're going to come together like this here in Club, and we're going to look at an account of Jesus. We're going to see what he was like, the things he said and the things he did, because when we get a clear view of who Jesus is, we get to know who God is. When we get to know who our Creator is, we get to know what we were created for. You ready? Yes. All right. Okay, I'm going to set the scene here. So Jesus is kind of doing his Jesus thing here on earth, all right? He's going around, hugging, kissing babies, doing miracles. People are starting to pay attention to him. He's saying some pretty profound things, and people are paying attention. They're listening. They want to hear him. And so a lot of crowds would gather around, and at this point, he had a group of his followers that were called his disciples. And these guys were pretty just ordinary dudes. A lot of them were fishermen. They were just kind of ordinary guys, and Jesus was like, hey, you, follow me. And they literally would drop everything they were doing, and they would just follow this guy, Jesus. And one day, Jesus is teaching to a large crowd. And as evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross to the other side of the lake. So they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon, a fierce storm came up. High winds were breaking into the boat, and it began to fill with water. Friends, I don't know if you've ever been on a boat. The point of the boat is not for water to get into the boat, okay? You want the water to stay out of the boat, all right? And so Jesus is with his disciples. They're in this boat, and a storm comes up out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, these waves start rising. Thunder fills the sky with lightning, and they start taking on water. Now, these boats, they're really good for fishing, but they weren't great for storm chasing. I actually have a picture of what they think the boats would have looked like. Kind of pretty rinky-dinky, right? So that's the boat that they would have been in. And it starts taking on water, and the disciples start freaking out, right? I would be too. I can't blame them. This thing could go down real quick. And so they start panicking, and they're like, well, let's see what Jesus is doing. Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. And so the disciples woke him up shouting, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" They say to him, "Don't you care that we're going to drown?" They're terrified. They're afraid. They're panicking. And they wake up Jesus and they say, "Don't you care?" Friends, maybe you haven't said that out loud before, but maybe you felt that. Maybe you've been in a storm, maybe not like this physical storm, but maybe you're going through some storms in your life right now, and you're kind of asking God and maybe shouting out to him or crying out to him, "God, do you even care?" I know for me, when I'm going through difficult things, I selfishly have that thought. I'm like, "God, where are you? Things are not going my way, right? This isn't the way it's supposed to be. This storm isn't supposed to be here. Do you even care? Don't you see me?" They wake him up and say, "Don't you care?" Jesus woke up. He rebuked the wind and the waves and said, "Silence, be still." And suddenly the wind stopped, and there was a great calm. Then he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The disciples were absolutely terrified. "Who is this man?" they asked each other, "that even the wind and the waves obey him?" Who is this man? Did you catch it? The disciples. They were more terrified after the storm was calm. Because this guy stood up in the middle of the boat and said 3 words, "Silence, be still." This someone just stands up and says those 3 words. I'd be pretty terrified too if someone said that. And the storm actually listened. But Jesus isn't a someone. He's no ordinary man. No, Jesus is God. And again, we get the clearest version of who God is when we look at the person of Jesus. And I think we learn 2 things in this story, all right? We learn 2 things about Jesus and about who God is. We learn that he is both personal and he's powerful, okay? He's personal and powerful. He's powerful. He can calm the weather. He can calm a storm with just 3 words. A storm will listen to him. The weather stops immediately. He's powerful enough to calm a storm. And he's personal enough to care about the storms in each one of our lives, to care about our fears, our anxieties, the times where we feel like we're taking on water. He wants to sit and listen and be in our boat. He is both personal and powerful. I do want to be clear here, though. This doesn't mean that every storm we go through in this life will be solved, will be calmed. That's not the point of this message tonight. It doesn't mean that if we know Jesus, then everything's going to go our way. But it does mean that if we so choose, we could have the God of the universe in our boat with us, going through the storms of this life. God's goodness is that he is with us, and he is with us in his Son, Jesus. And so when we get to know Jesus, we get to know God. And when we get to know God, we get to know our Creator, and we get to know what we were created for. So friends, I know this kind of idea of God sending his Son Jesus down to earth sounds a little hard to kind of get our heads wrapped around. And so I have with me something I created, a little world. Hopefully you can see that. Backstage, I kind of made this little Minecraft world. And I created everything in this little world. I made all the trees, all the little animals, the chicken, this little pig, the grass, the river, and I even made a little guy. We're gonna call him Bob, okay? We'll call him Bob. We'll call him Steve, all right? So I made Steve, and I put him in this little world. Now, hang with me. Steve only knows this world, right? He only knows this world. He doesn't know anything else outside of this world. But he can start to look at this world and go, every block was put together with intention. And he could start to think, hey, maybe there's a creator behind this world. And I may start to do things to try and get his attention, right? I may move some things around so that Bob can, hey, maybe there's something else happening out there that's bigger than me. He may think that there's a God out there. However, he's never going to know his creator unless I put myself into this world. I have hair in this version too, so. Until I place myself into Bob's world, Steve's world, until I place myself into his world, he's never going to know what I'm like. And friends, that is exactly what God did with his Son Jesus. When he sent his Son into our world so that we could get to know what he's like. That is exactly what God did with his Son Jesus. And we have a whole lot more that we're going to get into this week, and I can't wait to talk about it all. But something else we're going to get to do at the end of every night is something we call cabin time. And cabin time is when we're going to go back into our cabins, not right now. You're going to get with your leaders, and you're going to sit all on the same level in your cabin. And your leaders have some questions. Questions like, hey, who is Jesus? What is the point of this life? What were we created for? When I was in high school and I was in cabin time, again, I was trying really hard to fit in. But it was at something like cabin time where I got to be the most authentic version of myself. And if you let it, cabin time will be the best part of your week. All right? So friends, I'm going to pray for us, and then we have one more special thing before we're done. All right? Jesus, thank you so much for my friends that made it up here. Thank you for this place. Thank you for their leaders in this week, Lord. Thank you that you sent your Son into our world so that we could get to know what you're like. And when we get to know you, our Creator, we get to know what we were created for. which is a life full of significance and meaning. So thank you that you love and want a relationship with all of us, God. Would you be with my friends tonight? It's in your name we pray. Amen. Hey, I told you we have one more thing, and that is you never know what's going to happen at a Young Life camp.